Welcome to another session of Torah Nuggets. This week's Parashat, Parashat Balak, is dedicated to the Refuah Shelema of Emi Morati Jacqueline Bat Alia. This week's Parashat, we have the king of Moab, Balak, hiring Bilam, a wizard, a sorcerer, a master of black magic, to go and curse the Jewish people. They came to the understanding that physically they cannot beat the Jews. Maybe we could beat them on a spiritual plane. After many failed attempts by Bilam, and with the disappointment of all the kings that hired him for that task, Bilam parts ways with his employers with advice. Yes, I was not successful at what I was able to do, what you hired me to do, but let me give you advice. Ya'atz etzah. And what was the advice that he gave? Elokim shel ele soneh zima. He revealed to the kings of Moab and Midian that the Jewish God cannot stand sexual immorality. And he gave them the advice that the woman of Midian should go and try to seduce the Jewish men. They were successful, they failed, the Jewish men failed at this test, and they eventually, many died in a plague. And eventually we see that in upcoming parashiot, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructs Moshe, Nakom nikmat Yisrael b'Midyanim. Go and avenge the Midyanim for what they did, for the plot that they had, which was by the hand of Bilam. What's interesting though, is that there's a backstory to this. A backstory to this whole way of how the war was waged against the Midyanim, because even though that Moshe Rabbeinu was instructed by God, it was Pinchas actually that waged the war, and he on the battlefield confronted Bilam and killed him by sword. There's a phenomenal Yonatan ben Uziel that reveals something to us that will give us a complete different insight into the entire story. It says, the Arizal says, I bring this from Shvile Pinchas, he brings this as well in one of his Ma'amarim. The Arizal says, Lavan ha'arami, avi aviv shel Bilam atzmo, v'nitgalgel beBilam. He says, you know that Lavan ha'arami, the original evil Lavan, the crooked Lavan in the times of Yaakov Avinu, he was the great grandfather of Bilam, and later on he got reincarnated in Bilam. V'mimeno lamad Bilam ben beno ma'asim kshafim, and that's how Bilam knew all the sorcery and the wizardry, because the source of all of it was his great grandfather who was reincarnated inside of him. Furthermore, it says Bilam Gilgul Lavan herag ben lamed gil shana. He also died, even though that he's the reincarnation of Lavan, he died at the age of 33, Lamed Gimel, 33. And why would that be? Mishum sha'avar halagal shenishba Lavan leYaakov shelo ya'avor oto. Because he passed over the gal, he passed over this pile of stones, a wall of stones, that he promised to Yaakov. He made a monument to Yaakov that he won't pass this gal. So it's very interesting. If we go to Sefer Bamidbar, it says, Ve'ed Bilam ben Beor hargu b'cherev. And Bilam was killed by the sword. Yonatan ben Uziel says, Halo antu Lavan arama deba'it lemishitza yat Yaakov avunan. It says that Pinchas, while killing Bilam, was telling him, aren't you Lavan Arami that wanted to destroy my father Yaakov? And Pinchas took his sword and put it into his body and killed him. So we see that Bilam had a direct connection to Lavan. And Lavan has an interesting story with Yaakov. Besides being his father-in-law, besides being the father of Rachel, Leah, Bilha, and Zilpah, we know that when Yaakov finally had enough of his crooked ways, he left the house of Lavan. And eventually, after running after Yaakov, they made some sort of a peace treaty. And to commemorate that peace treaty, they created a wall made from stones, a gal, as it says in in the Pesukim in Bereshit, Vayomer Yaakov le'achiv liktu avanim v'ikchu avanim vayasu gal vayachlu sham al hagal. It says that they collected the stones and they made a wall out of it, or a monument out of it, or some sort of a wall, and it's called over there Gal. Vayomer Lavan leYaakov, hine hagal hazeh v'hine matzeva asher iti beni mincha. Okay, so here we are. We have a monument, we have a wall, we have a pile of stones that's going to commemorate this peace agreement that we have. And what is it? אם אני לא אעבור אליך את הגל הזה, ואם אתה לא תעבור אליי את הגל הזה ואת המצבה הזאת לרעה. We both make promise right here, right now, Lavan and Yaakov, that nobody passes this stone wall, this pile of stones right here, to harm one another. And that was their treaty, that was their promise, and that was their parting words. Interestingly enough, when Bilam came to curse the Jewish people, remember he was going on the donkey. And the famous talking donkey story, as it says over there, that Bilam took Rochev, Vehine Bilam Rochev al atono. Bilam is riding on his donkey, and all of a sudden the donkey sees something that Bilam doesn't see. Bilam's donkey sees an angel with an outstretched hand holding a sword ready to kill him, and it stops. And we see that since Bilam did not see that angel, he kept urging the donkey to move forward. And since the donkey saw the angel with the sword threatening its life to death, and Bilam didn't, so it didn't want to move forward, so it says over there that it crushed Bilam's leg on a wall. You go to Rashi, Rashi tells us that it was Gader shel Avanim, that it was a wall of stones. And later on, we see that finally, in Pasuk Lam, Perek Chavbet, Pasuk Lamed Aleph, Vayagal Hashem et einei Bilam. Interesting that Hashem uncovered the eyes of Bilam. Vayagal Hashem et einei Bilam, that he was able to see the angel as well. And then Bilam said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Had I known that there's an angel over here that's threatening my life, that doesn't want to go forward, I would have stopped. I didn't see it. My apologies." But over here we see that there's something here happening behind the scenes. It's also interesting that the Pasuk uses the word Vayigal. There it is, meaning the unrolling of the eyes, the being able to see something different. Vayigal, it's hinted over there, the Gal. What's this Gal? This is the exact same Gal. This is the exact same wall of stones that Yaakov and Lavan built many, many generations ago. And Bilam is now passing by it. But what's happening? Bilam, who is the reincarnation of Lavan, is trying to break his word. He's trying to cause harm to the Jewish people. He's on his way to curse the Jews. So comes the wall and says, well, you made a promise. This is where you made a covenant. And stands the angel over there with the sword, there to uplift and uphold the promise that was made by both Lavan and Yaakov. As it says, Vatilchatz regel Bilam el hakir, Hagal hu hakir. It says that when the donkey pressed Bilam's leg on the wall, that wall is the exact same gal that Yaakov and Lavan made a promise on. Shavar Bilam et Hashavua sheshba Yaakov, because right now Bilam is now going over the promise that he made to Yaakov. He's not keeping his word. We made a promise that you cannot pass this wall in order to hurt one another. That's why nifra hakir mimeno. That's why that wall over there wasn't letting the Bilam go and crushed his leg. You cannot continue. You have to uphold your promise. Now, what's interesting about this story is that there's a few takeaways that we can learn from this Midrash. First of all, stand on its own. This is a phenomenal Midrash. Connecting Yaakov and Lavan and that Gal that they made to many generations later to his evil great-grandson Bilam, who wanted to break the promise of Lavan to hurt the Jewish people. That in itself is an amazing connection that we made from Yonatan ben Uziel and from the Arizal. But within this Midrash, there's a few takeaways. Within this Midrash, there's some very interesting points that we have to learn. First things is, we have to learn to pay attention to signs. Sometimes we push hard to go in the wrong direction. Bilam was warned by Hashem not to go. He knew that he could not hurt the Jewish people. And he knew that even though that now that he saw that his donkey is not going in that direction, he could turn away, taking a different road. But what did he do? He kept pushing in the wrong direction. Sometimes we're like that too. We don't see God's signs. We don't see the signs. That sometimes we push too hard when we go into a business and it's not the right business, but we convince ourselves. Sometimes we push too hard of our ways or of our opinion in our marriages, or sometimes with the chinuch with our children. And then sometimes Hashem gives us the signs that stop. There's no flow over here. There's no a continuation. There's a stop sign. There's a stoppage of flow in your life, in your relationship, in your chinuch. Switch gears. Do something wrong. Stop. Think about things. To think about, to do some introspect. Why are things not going in the right direction? Not wait till there's danger. Not wait till there's an angel with a sword threatening life. Not until we get into a dangerous situation. Then we have the aha moment. Oh, I should have done something different with my business. Oh, I should have done something different with my wife. Oh, I should have done something different with my kids. Pick up on the signs. You don't have to push something and fail 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Sometimes when things start to become difficult, stop, reassess, rethink, recalculate, recalibrate your decision-making process. Don't wait for the danger to show up. Also, know that sometimes today's challenges have a lot to do with spiritual baggage from previous lives. Sometimes things cannot be explained, they cannot be understood, and they're not visible to us. Not everybody gets the merit to Veigal Hashem et einav, that Hashem uplifts the veil that's in front of our eyes and allows us to see more than what it is. Sometimes we just have to trust that what Hashem has in store for us is for the best, including the difficulties, to make sure not to push too much into the direction of difficulties, and reassess, understand that sometimes the difficulties are for our own good and for our own protection. Shabbat Shalom V'Rach.